Oh, man, it's a new Spirit Ride Option podcast. The 49ers look to extend their season opening winning streak to 6 with an early game on Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. We're going to talk about it all starting right about now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go, Niners.
Let's go, Niners. Sprint Ride Option Podcast. Oh my goodness. We are live. It's a new episode of the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte. And I know we're on to Browns week, but I've had one thought on my mind all week since it's happened, Jason Aponte.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot think of a funnier thing that could happen on Sunday morning than George Kittle scoring a touchdown, lifting his shirt to reveal the F Dallas shirt to remind people that even though they're in Cleveland, it's still fuck Dallas.
Jesus, we're still doing that? I actually forgot about them. Like that after that loss, like I kind of just was like, you know what? They're not even worth the conversation anymore. But hey, if Andrew wants to pop it off, I'm with it. Like, let's keep it going.
I saw that photo 1.5 million times this week. Whether he'd be fine, whether he'd not. I just thought it'd be funny just to continue it. You fined me $13,623 or whatever the exact number is, but I just want to remind the people it's just forever F Dallas. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty funny too. Damn, I didn't know Andrew was going to open like that. I assumed there was going to be something about like Cleveland and like I didn't know that's where we were going.
It was either that or I heard Ryan Fitzpatrick give a good opinion on how to stop the tush push. But that I feel like is more for the Philadelphia preview, which like I'm already kind of like sneaky thinking about because no disrespect to the Cleveland Browns, very good defense, very good pass rusher in Myles Garrett. I have a hard time getting up for a PJ Walker start. That's just my opinion. So I've been kind of like we did with the Arizona. I started looking forward a little bit, but nonetheless, we're gonna have plenty of good information on the Browns, Jason. I didn't start though. How's your Friday going?
Pretty good. Streets is saying the streets are calling. Somehow the streets are calling and it's like what? Like how did?
Okay.
Yeah, we're kind of getting that, so it's Friday. Gonna have some fun today, but yeah, no, look, I'm actually way up for this game more than I was like the Arizona game. Like where I was looking forward towards Dallas. Like there are certain things about this that are intriguing.
Yes.
I understand the PJ Walker thing. Obviously if Deshaun Watson was there, it still wouldn't matter. I would pick the 49ers, but there's the history with Kyle Shanahan and Jim Schwartz, and I want to see that get broken. I want to see if Colton McKivitz can continue to improve against Myles Garrett as well, too. I want to see if the 49ers can play in a game where it's raining and what the offense looks like, and the Cleveland's run defense is very good. There's a lot to be intrigued about with this game. I never had any thoughts like that with the Arizona Cardinals, so at least there's that.
Yeah, this game definitely has the interesting matchup. As I mentioned on Twitter the other day, Jason, that you saying that this Browns defense is everything the Cowboys defense thinks they are.
Yep.
Putting it in my mind of like, oh, okay, Jason, like that's how we're looking at it. That's right. Mentally stable Andrew loves that thought going into a weekend. But it's true because you look at all these numbers and it's a lot of fewest, lowest, best defense in the league, top 3 defense in the league, and it's interesting. But at the same time, last week we had, I don't think as much conversation about the Dallas defense about in terms of being tops of the league and a lot of things, but they were also near the top of the league in a lot of stats, and the Niners defense broke them to a point where I guess they're gonna laugh later or something. I don't know. We don't need to dive into that.
You're still doing it. I'm
still doing it. It's so funny to me. It's so funny that all the quotes last week, and we're still here talking about whether or not George Kittle's shirt was inappropriate or Micah Parsons. But anyways, I'll digress. No more Cowboy talk from here on out. We talk about teams that can compete with the Niners here on this podcast, Jason Aponte. But there's a lot of things to this game. A lot of headlines, a lot of stories that I don't think you necessarily would have thought going into a random week 6 49ers Browns game, because there's plenty of headlines. We've mentioned Deshaun Watson, PJ Walker. Randy Gregory is going to make his debut for the 49ers come Sunday. Joel Bitonio, he's out. That's going to be a huge thing for the Cleveland Browns offensive line. A lot of things going into this game. So, Jason, I'm gonna let you, dealer's choice, Jason Aponte's choice. His hair is looking clean, it's looking nice. It's upkept, unlike mine. It's all over the place. So I'm gonna let you pick. Where do you want to start with the Cleveland Browns?
Just a little bit about like the Cleveland defense is who Dallas thinks they are, and there's so many similar things in terms of coverages that they use, and then you have your star pass rusher. But I do think that the one thing that Cleveland has is two very, very good corners in Newsom and Ward. I think there's an argument for them to be the best duo in the league as well. Grant Delpit's a great player. JOK. There's a lot of great players on this defense, and all of those things that kind of last week I talked about with the Cowboys, where I said, I believe this is going to be a low-scoring game. This is going to be the test. Like, you're going to find out. It's not going to be as easy as possible. The only way that I see Cleveland's defense folding if their offense can't sustain drives and if they're not keeping the defense fresh, because the 49ers will wear you out, even though Cleveland is at the bottom of the league or top, whatever it is, in giving up rushing yards. No one scored a rushing touchdown on them this year. Christian McCaffrey, it's your time, right? Like, we want to get to 15. So I am really, really intrigued with this battle. And then on top of that, the Jim Schwartz and Kyle Shanahan thing. Yes. I really want to see this offense against this defense because I've been craving a challenge. That's a Dallas Cowboy joke. And Cleveland may just be that. And that's what I think we were going to get on Sunday Night Football. So I want to see them against a top-end defense with players who can take away wide receivers and are very good in coverage. I want to see all of this. The one thing that the 49ers have as a little bit of an advantage is Cleveland struggles against pre-snap motion. The 49ers, obviously, pre-snap motion with the Miami Dolphins, the same kind of thing. So I think that's where we're going to find the interesting part. But Cleveland is the defense that Dallas believes they are. And I think that's what is most interesting to me is, like, we're going to see a wet game and against a really good defense. Like, I want to see how this plays out because there hasn't been many adverse situations or circumstances around Brock Purdy and his team so far.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Jason. It's not just the rush yards allowed, the fourth lowest in the league. It's really every stat of, like, moving the ball. It's all of that. They've allowed the fewest yards per game, 196.8, under 200. Yards per play, 3.8. That's the fewest in the league. Drives that ends and scores, 17.5, lowest in the league. Pass yards per game, fewest in the league. Sack percentage, second high. Like, it's a lot of these stats of, okay, how are the 49ers going to move the ball? It's stuff like that. And I understand that they've played all three teams in the AFC North already. They got lucky. Not lucky. The schedule makers, the AI overlord schedule makers that Amazon keeps wanting to tell us the schedule is made up by AI, bless them with the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1. Not necessarily a great matchup for the Bengals because, A, they start slow. Burrow was hurt, all that fun stuff. But what I think is going to be very interesting is it's a defense. You mentioned Newsom, you mentioned Delpit. It's a defense that hasn't forced any turnovers yet. They have the 5th lowest turnover percentage in the NFL, 6% of drives ending in turnovers. And so the question becomes to me, Jason, is what do you believe in more? This Browns defense that is slowing teams down. They are very much slowing teams down, but not forcing mistakes, proving that they're an elite defense, because I think that if they hold the Niners defense or offense to 15, 20, whatever points they've been holding teams to, I think we can start talking about an elite defense out in Cleveland. Or do you believe that the 49ers offense that's had little to no issues moving the ball, scoring points, that has Brock Purdy, top 10 quarterback, MVP candidate, dare I say, Jason Aponte, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, do you think that they'll be able to move the ball on offense while not making mistakes, something they don't do? They do not make mistakes. They've only turned the ball over twice. So I'm interested to see that battle of, can Cleveland force turnovers? If they can't, can they keep stopping the Niners offense? Or can the Niners not turn the ball over? Or are they going to have struggles moving against a Cleveland defense that's tough to move against?
And then when you throw in the rain and the wind, it's just it's all the recipe for like a weird game. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Brock hasn't had to play in one of those monsoon games. Jimmy has, Trey has, Those games are weird, and the 49ers don't win those games. So I want to see how this is. I want to see them kind of, again, this is out of your control, but these circumstances aren't ideal, right? Like, what type of offense are you going to be? And then on top of that, the nature of the defense against you. Like, I don't learn things about this team when they keep blowing people out.
Yes.
I want to know about when things aren't ideal, what to think right now, right? Like, the season's not going to play out this way where they're just beating everybody by like 20 and something points. I mean, I would love that. I would love that for us because it's super easy to be a 49ers content creator right now.
Yes.
But I do want to see these matchups and these like games where it's like, hey, that team isn't better than you, but they present matchups. They present matchups that are hard on the 49ers, and you want to see improvement. You know, again, like McKivitz against Garrett. Can you game plan for him like you did with Michael Parsons and erase him? We've seen them do it with Aaron Donald at times. TJ Watt's the only one who really this season has caused havoc. The Giants' defensive line was them sending like 7 and 8 guys, so it really wasn't just like 1 or 2 guys like wreaking havoc. So I want to see, again, a blue chip player, not somebody that you're going to see again, but basically back-to-back weeks, this offensive line has gone against the number 1 and number 2 pressure rates as pass rushers with Michael Parsons and Myles Garrett. I'm interested to see if this offense can continue to function while respecting that player. And that's when you know your offense is cooking, is when you don't have to change anything drastic and you can just operate your offense. You can do it while respecting the player and giving enough attention to him.
Yeah, no, I that's the one I'm interested in because it's not just Myles Garrett. It's Darius Smith on the other side. It's going to create an issue. I know Myles Garrett takes a lot of his snaps on the left side of the offense. That's going to put him against Trent Williams, which is just going to be a hell of a matchup to watch on Sunday. I'm excited to watch that one. I'm interested. I think, Jason, you and I are kind of in the same spot. Is I'm excited to see how the 49ers handle this matchup and how they respond and see. Because I think I know it's really easy to talk about, the Cleveland Browns and they're the Browns and blah, blah, blah. But if the Niners put up 30 points on Sunday, it's probably their most impressive offensive game of the season because you keep mentioning the rain and all that fun stuff. And we're getting – this is when football starts to me, is when we have to start talking about the weather because that's football season to me. The stat that stood out the most to me for the Cleveland Browns defense, and it's kind of crazy how much they lead this stat by. First downs allowed per game. They're allowing 9.25 first downs per game this season. The Niners defense is allowed the 4th fewest first downs at where's my number? I have it 16.8. So there's a difference of 7 first downs per game allowed. The second place New Orleans Saints, they've allowed 16 first downs per game. The difference between the Cleveland Browns at number 1 and the New Orleans Saints at number 2 in terms of first downs allowed is the same as number 2 Saints and the number 28 Indianapolis Colts. That's how wide of a margin this Browns defense is leading, not giving up first down. So, yeah, man, this is going to be such an intriguing matchup. It's not just all the talent on both sides of the ball, but it is the mentioned Jim Schwartz versus Kyle Shanahan, and Niner fans have their little history with Jim Schwartz. I'm sure you remember with Jim Harbaugh when Schwartz was the head coach with the Lions. What was the stat? The Shanahan offenses have won 1 game against 7, 10. Whatever, 1 out of 10 against Jim Schwartz. They've scored 20 or more points against Jim Schwartz defenses once. Things like that don't make me feel good. I just want to go back to has Kyle Shanahan had an offense as complete as this one? And has Jim Schwartz been able to defend a offense as good as this one? And that's where it's the matchup within the matchup.
I think what's funny is you mentioned the first down numbers, and the game before the bye, the Baltimore Ravens actually kind of lit up the Browns in that game. So that shows that there is a funky game in there for them, and they still have that stat. Now, I haven't gone all the way through. Again, the Bengals, they start slow. I believe they played the Steelers as well, too. That offense is not great. Those are all things that kind of people are saying about, the 49ers and certain teams, like who have they played. But the Ravens kind of lit them up before the bye week. I remember watching that game. Lamar had a very good game, and they still are at the top. So I think it's something that needs to be discussed as well, too. Like, again, the only way I see this game really getting away from being competitive the entire way is if the Cleveland defense is out there too long. If PJ Walker can't sustain drives and it's just 3-and-out, and the 49ers are just feasting, they don't have to be challenged down the field, anything like that, and they're just getting off the field, then that's going to be the time where you'll see Cleveland wear down. And the 49ers are built to knock you out in that way if you start to get tired. So that's the only way I really see this game getting out of hand. I still have the 49ers winning by like probably about like 10 or 13 points, but it'll be competitive the entire way. And it's going to be interesting to see like, how it goes with this defense.
Yeah, and I think to me the defense, the Browns defense versus the 49ers offense, that's the matchup to watch. But it feels like you mentioned PJ Walker, all the headlines for this game are on the offensive side of the ball for the Browns, defensive side for the 49ers. Let's start with the 49ers angle of it before we get into the injuries on the Browns side of the ball. The big news for the 49ers defense this week, Randy Gregory is going to make his debut. Obviously, remember the trade that happened last week. I was reading a few articles about Randy Gregory. He rushed from a standing position in Denver. Obviously, he's going to rush from a three-point stance in San Francisco. That's what the Niners do, the 4-3, at least in base. He did admit that he needed to work on lowering his pad level on rushing, so maybe it's something that works out best for him. And then according to teammates and his agent, 10 teams showed interest in Gregory when Denver made the announcement, or I guess the report came out that Denver was moving on from Gregory, which maybe spurned the Niners into making the trade. I know we touched on it a little bit last week in terms of the idea of Randy Gregory, but now we're going to get to see him on the field in the red and gold, see what he looks like in that number 5. Give me your thoughts. You've had a week now to kind of think about what Randy Gregory can do on this Niners defense, Jason. Now that we're a little closer, give me what your week old thoughts are on Randy Gregory.
I mean, obviously it adds to the depth, but the 49ers have been chasing that speed rusher that D Ford was in 2019 for this entire time. And they kind of hoped it would be Drake Jackson. After the 3-sack game, it hasn't looked that way. And that's fine. Like, maybe he needs a little bit more time. But if you get someone who situationally can pass rush, and I'll be honest with you, Andrew, like, yeah, they might put him in 3-point, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to play to his skill set and like mug him over the A-gap or try to get him in different spots and move him around standing up. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they play. Like, it's like, yeah, we'd like for you to fix yourself and play this part, but we also have to do a duty of like putting you in a good position, right, to succeed. So it's going to be interesting to see. But again, situationally, like he has, I think his last 3 years in Dallas, 15.7 pressure rate, 15.1 pressure rate, 15.7 pressure rate. And that's just situationally as a pass rusher. 96% of his pass rushes are throughout his career, right? Like he's not an every down like run defender. Like again, so it'll feel just like kind of D Ford in terms of the skill set they're chasing. And then situationally, it'll be 3rd down, 3rd and 9, go get the quarterback, like go, and that's the type of stuff that you'll see more than anything. So I love it. I think it's a great move. And I do think, again, the 49ers just found a cheap way to try to take a shot on somebody. And I think why not somebody who has actually put up the numbers that he has, even in the state that he is in his career.
Yeah, so Gregory will get his chance on Sunday. He won't be chasing Deshaun Watson, who's not going to play. He has a right shoulder injury he suffered a couple weeks ago. He was replaced by Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He started for the Browns in week 4 against Baltimore. That didn't go very well. He went 19 for 36, 121 yards, 3 interceptions, 4 sacks taken in the loss. So who do they call? Well, none other than the 2020 passing touchdown leader in the XFL. And I believe they call it the mid-year MVP, PJ Walker. It's going to be his first start with the Browns. He has 7 career starts, all with Carolina. Little interesting connection between him and 49ers defensive coordinator Steve Wilks, both in Carolina the past few years. In those 7 starts, 15 games, he's 13 for 200 or 131 for 228 on his pass attempts, 1,400 yards, 5 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Jason, I think, let me get the obvious out of the way. I don't think I'd want to start a 3rd-string quarterback against this 49ers defense.
I think it was painfully clear watching Dorian Thompson-Robinson play. Or I forget, what is his name again?
DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The asterisks are the hyphenations always.
Right. I got it. It's just that I'm in my own head. But I think it was obvious watching him that the preseason stuff doesn't carry over to the regular season games. And it's just funny how, like, in the preseason, everyone was like, hey, you know, maybe they should have drafted him, or could you imagine? And it's like, guys, that was preseason. Like you know, when things turn around. The other thing is apparently he found out just like a few hours before the game started that he was going to start, which is no fun. That's like no fun at all. And then I believe he found out through the media that he would not be starting this week. PJ Walker would. And it's just like, hey, Cleveland Browns, you guys really know how to do it. So, I mean,
figure it out.
Yeah, the thing is like the DTR hype was always too big because it was in preseason. But yeah, I watched that game and he did not look like he could see things quick enough. The Ravens were all over the place. It's obviously a tough matchup as well, but PJ at least has been solid, right? Like he can complete plays and things like that. Like we all joke about like XFL legend, all that stuff. I was talking with my dad about this, you know, a little while ago. I was like, you know, it's kind of a small miracle that he's stuck around as long as he has, like on teams and been able to be somebody who they do turn to, right? Like even in this moment. So yeah, obviously not ideal. You definitely want to see Deshaun Watson. I still would have picked the 49ers. That would have been a lot more fun to watch. But the PJ Walker thing is like, hey, he's going to be solid. Like he'll complete. I think he can go through the game plan and everything. But yeah, the 49ers defense should have their way at this point, especially with Njoku being injured. The Bitonio thing is really, really important for people to know. That's very scary for them. And then unfortunately, the real shine is off of this Browns team because Nick Chubb would have been the centerpiece. And I love watching him run the football. And it's like, man, Jerome Ford is fine, but he's no Nick Chubb. And this team is like lacking like their weapons. So it's a shame that it happens. It is football. But yeah, I don't think the 49ers are going to take them for granted. But the shine is off this offense right now in terms of being scared about, you know, how they can move.
Yeah, and that the Joel Bitonio injury, like to me, that's almost bigger than Deshaun Watson because it's obviously I'm not trying to say guard versus a starting quarterback, all that stuff, but I just feel like the 1 week you don't want to have maybe the best guard in the NFL out is when you have a third string quarterback going up against one of the best pass rushes in the league. And it's not just a pass rush, Jason. I think in the history of this podcast, we've exclusively talked the pass rush from the outer edges, but now it's against the Niners defensive line that seems to be getting, I mean, not seems to be, it's getting as much pressure from the interior as it is on the exterior. If you look at last season, according to PFF, the 49ers only had 2 players listed as a defensive lineman and not an edge, finished with 15 or more pressures. That's Eric Armstead and Kevin Givens last year. He had exactly 15. The 49ers defensive line, the interior of the line, if Eric Armstead has 2 pressures on Sunday and Javon Kinlaw has 3, they already have 3 interior defensive linemen with at least 15 pressures through 6 games. 2-17 last year with 15 pressures, 3-6 games this year if the things happen. And to not have Bitonio, like as I said, one of the best, if not the best guards in the NFL to protect your third. I'm not going to call him a third string. I think calling PJ Walker a third string quarterback is a little disingenuous. But the third quarterback you have started in a game this season, that feels like a recipe for disaster. And that to me screams not just Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Kinlaw having a big game, but you're talking about a quarterback who has twice as many, small sample size, 11 interceptions to 5 touchdowns, maybe being forced into mistakes against the 49ers defense that forces turnovers. They have 6 different players with an interception. All 3 of their linebackers have already recorded interceptions. So it's not just one guy on this defense. It's everywhere that's forcing turnovers. So I am very interested to see what that matchup looks like. And we'll take Keith's question now because I think Jason Aponte is the perfect guy.
Well, I wanted to say real quick before I throw that up, honestly. Oh man, I had it. Oh, it's gone. Man.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was on pace to get it, but go for it.
Oh, no, I was going to say, Keith Murphy, the unbeaten. Do you think Steve Wilkes' familiarity with PJ Walker will be an advantage? I'll turn it to Jason.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now I remember what it was. I ran into an analytics table. I believe it's defensive line EPA. And I found it objectively hilarious that there's so much talk about the defensive line. And the 49ers starting defensive line was number 2, and their second string defensive line was number 5 in this table. Like it's objectively hilarious that the 49ers starters and backups are literally on this table when everyone else was just going through their starters. And that was Kevin Gibbons, that was Javon Kinlaw, all of those guys. I think that's objectively hilarious that there are numbers out there that literally can point to this defensive line being just as good as it's ever been. Yet there's still a large discussion about this defensive line somehow, as if it's I see them getting pressures all the time. Like, I don't understand this. I just wanted to make sure I threw it out there. And Keith says, do you think Steve Wilks' familiarity with PJ Walker will be an advantage? Yeah, I mean, obviously, knowing the guy is one thing, but I think I think Wilks knows the scheme more than anything. Mike Shanahan or Bill Walsh, then Mike Shanahan, and then Stefanski, all those guys, like, it's all almost the same thing that these guys are running, especially with the way Stefanski wants to run the football. A lot of gap scheme runs, outside zone, all of those things that they still want to run. Like, it's very familiar. They have very familiar concepts regardless. But yeah, you would definitely think that Steve Wilks has a upper hand against PJ Walker, having coached him, right? A little bit. But at the same time, I think it's more about what I'd be more confident in is that Wilks understands how to slow down Stefanski's offense of running the football and everything. And if you can't run the football if you're not sustaining first down. So if the 49ers stop the run, they'll have some fun. And I think that's where the defensive line starts to take over in this game.
Yeah, it's for every issue the defense or the offense might have with the Browns defense, the 49ers defense shouldn't have with Cleveland. There's little spots. You mentioned Ford's been solid, but he's no Chubb. Obviously, this offense would be a little different with Watson, but it's PJ Walker. And then the weather, Jason. It's just going to be tough sledding. To even, I think the Niners defense. This is my bold take for Sunday. I think the Niners defense scores 2 scores. Like, I think they get 2 touchdowns. Maybe I'll keep it score. Maybe they get a safety, but 2 scores from this 49ers defense. I think that feels pretty solid. It's a defense that really is clicking. 3 interceptions last week against Dak Prescott. Now you're facing a third-string quarterback. I don't know if I've mentioned that enough, Jason, that the Niners defense is facing a third-string quarterback. But maybe things are a little different. Dre Greenlaw's questionable. We'll see what ends up with him. But to me, this is where the 49ers win this game, is the defense. I do not think that you keep mentioning that, hey, can PJ Walker stay on the field to keep the Browns defense off the field? I do not think that's going to be the case. I just don't see how they're going to move the ball, because it's already an offense that has the 3rd fewest points per game this season. It's an offense that has the 3rd lowest yards per play. And now you're taking away their best guard, you're taking away their quarterback, and you're telling them to go play the best defense in the NFL and move the ball, see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds all well and good. That sounds amazing, right? That sounds great. It sounds like, oh man, it's going to be so easy. There's just something weird in my mind about this game. Like, I swear, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just being, dramatic. I guess I don't feel like I'm being dramatic because I've got the 49ers winning, but this all is lining up too well. And I don't know what it is. Like, things are too easy. I don't like this. I'm not used to it. I am paranoid. I'm definitely thinking something is around the corner. Like, it just can't be this easy. It just cannot keep being this easy. And it's like, you're better than this team, but the slip-ups, when do they happen, right? Like against Arizona, right, with Colt McCoy. We're laughing all week. Colt McCoy is coming in, kicks the Niners' dick in. Like, it's one of those games that it's just like, I know in my heart of hearts that this team is better than the Cleveland Browns. I know for a fact that they can win this game, and they probably will. But there is something a little weird about this game that I haven't felt all year. And it's all of those things that I was talking about between, it being against this defense, Jim Schwartz, all that stuff. Like, all those things are weird, and they could lead to a weird game. Like, if the 49ers score 30 again, man, I don't know. I have no idea then. That's it. I'm just going to stop saying they won't. Because at this point, when won't they?
It's funny too, because we've obviously the past couple of years, the 49ers slow start. I think part of it has to do with this is entering their 6th game 2 years ago. The Niners were 2-3. Last year they were 3-2 before falling to 3-4. This year, Jason, it's significantly different, because this is the first time in 2 years, Jason, that we haven't been talking about a week 6 game as like hey, the Niners kind of like need to win this. This slow start is hurting them. It's 5-0. It's a game that on paper the Niners should win very easily, but it's all of those little red flags you just mentioned. And yes, the name Colt McCoy has popped into my brain about 400 times this week. So you're absolutely not wrong for that, because it's just we as 49ers fans and 49ers content creators, we have gotten so used to just so much chaos that this is too quiet. This is too quiet for 49er fans. And what feels like the perfect situation for the chaos to just pop out of nowhere, it would be a 5-0 game against the Browns team in Cleveland that has an offense that's missing a lot of pieces. This would be it. But let's shoo those feelings away, because I do think in my heart, Jason, that this feels like a Niners win, and it should be a Niners win. Do you have any final things you want to get to before we get to we were so caught up in the rivalry game last week, we forgot about Hoop's revenge game. So I want to make sure we get Hoop's revenge game today. But do you have any final thoughts on kind of anything we may have missed? I feel like we got a lot covered.
No, a lot of running in this game for the 49ers, whether that's to just wear down the defense, but it's going to be, if it's going to be slick and things like that, then you got to lean on it. Elijah Mitchell, I hope you play.
Yep.
Elijah Mitchell, I hope you make it through the game. And yeah, this is going to be one of those like 30, 35 rush games. 30, 35, 40 rushes, right? And I think everybody needs to contribute in this one. I think this is going to be one of those grind them out games. Yeah. I mean, again, obviously, the only way I see this slipping away is if, obviously they can't get anything going. They're literally 3-and-out, 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 3-and-out. And then their defense gets tired. So, yeah, for me, this has got to be a game where you don't expect as much passing when you think about the corner duo outside. And you don't suspect too much, of throwing the ball if it's going to be nasty with weather. So this is just going to be one of those run games, like run the football. Elijah Mitchell, you're here, buddy. Let's go. Make it through the game. Play and go and make it through the game already, man. Please.
All right. Whom's revenge game is it, Jason? I have 3 names on the list today. He played for the Browns from 2012 to 2015. He currently is on the San Francisco 49ers. Tashawn Gibson revenge game on Sunday. And then the Browns have 2 former 49ers, Maurice Hurst and Marquise Goodwin, who I would pencil in a good Niner, even though he was only here for 3 years. I feel like he was a good 49er. So there's your Hoomps revenge games. Tashawn Gibson's good. So maybe one of the 2 touchdowns I predicted for the 49ers defense comes from Tashawn Gibson,
Maybe. I definitely want to give a shout out to Maurice Hurst, because he's been really good this year, like kind of under the radar. So I really like that. So let's see. Keith says, this team is on a mission this year. I love our mindset and mentality. The team doesn't even take anything for granted after what happened in the NFC. Yeah, and that's another thing, right? Is like the idea of a trap game. Well, I don't think the 49ers are going to come out flat. And I think that they are handling business in a way. And I'm going off nothing but vibes. They have been handling business every week, no matter the opponent. And I do think that, again, based off vibes, nothing more than that they look at every single week as there's something else to clean up. And they're still not perfect, right? Like, we missed some throws against the Rams. We got to hit on those. The blocking in the early against the blitz against the Giants, we've got to fix that. There's always something I think that they're looking at that they want to fix. And I think every week is an opportunity to get better. So I think that's kind of the mentality that I'm getting from this team right now. And thank God for the fact that they are largely healthy, even though Dre Greenlaw did not practice today and he's questionable.
Perfect. All right, Jason Aponte. I think we're at that time of the day. It's predictions. Before that, let's get Keith's next comment here. If we lose, it's because we got beat. We approach each game business. The undisciplined letdown team lives in Texas. I don't know where the Texas reference comes from, but yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. If the Niners lose this game, it's probably because they got beat. Jason, before we dive into game predictions, little thing we've been doing here now the past couple of weeks, we're trying to remember to do it. Go to Underdog, use the promo code Aponte. Got the name right this time, Jay. Got the promo code right. Always important. They will match your first deposit up to $100. I'm going to give you 3 very bad predictions that I have. Jason's going to give you 3 that you probably should run with because he's
probably not, honestly.
Maybe not.
That's the good thing about this, right? Is I love that when I put out my picks, people are like, "Have you hit on any of these?" I'm like, "Well, it sounds to me like you need to be betting against what I'm saying."
Yeah.
If you notice that, like, I'm helping you if you really think about it.
If we're really bad, pick opposites. If we're really good, pick the pick. So there you go. Right. My 3, Jason, you talked me into 1. I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey higher than 17.5 rushing attempts. weather. It's going to be a run game. I feel like Jawan Jennings higher than 11.5 receiving yards is as good as money. He averages something like 23 per reception. So if he catches one, there you go on average. The weather, the Browns defense, I'm going to take Jake Moody higher than 1.5 field goal made. So there's my 3, Jason Aponte.
I've got to actually pick this up like on here because I was trying to get it on the site. There's not anything to say about underdog. Like I promise you.
No, absolutely.
I did have my eye on Deebo Samuel's over under on his rushing yards. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last time I took a look at it, it was 13.5. Give me the higher on that. Yeah, give me higher on that one as well. Christian McCaffrey, 3.5 receptions, higher. I think that's the way that they are going to make easy completions, especially if it's getting nasty out and it's raining. And Kyle Juszczyk, over half a yard. I mean, that one always kind of feels like stealing because there's always going to be, but he has to catch the ball, so it's over.
Half a receiving yard.
Yeah, it's half a receiving yard. Those are 3 that I've got. Underdog Fantasy, use promo code Aponte. Double your first deposit up to $100. And yeah, if I'm getting it wrong, that's what you should take a look. And you should say, hey, whatever Jason's saying, I should probably go against that. That's how you make money. So if you're paying attention, you should win money.
Yeah, I love it. Jason, game predictions. I'm gonna keep until the Niners don't score 30. I'm gonna keep picking them to score 30. Yes, it's in the rain. Yes, it's in Cleveland against a very good defense, but I'm gonna take 34-3. 34-3. I'm gonna go 34-3. Let's just get real wild. Nobody pays attention to these scores anyway, Jason Aponte. I just pick random numbers. 34-3.
27-3 49ers. I have a really big belief in his defense, and I think they're gonna have a great game as well too. So what? I
like how I went 34-3. You went damn, and then you just went knock a touchdown off the Niners, 27-3. 34 too much. 27.
The 30-point thing, it's gotta stop, right? Like it just can't continue, right? Like it just can't continue. So Jason, I mean, I still got the 49ers defense. I just in the realm of possibilities and like the way that I think about things, I'm just like, what is the drive that the Cleveland Browns like go down the field, like right, and like score?
Does it happen? Yeah, that's
right. Like how does it happen? Is it like PJ Walker's sitting back and slinging that thing down the field? Like how does that happen in the realm of possibilities? That's I'm having a tough time figuring out how they score touchdowns in this game. Jason Mishler, thank you for the donation. Jason, start Goddard over Kittle at tight end. Kittle or Downs. This is tough. I think when you look at both of them, they're probably a better flex option than Downs, and that's the way you should kind of look at it. So I would find a way to start Goddard and Kittle. When you look at the usage that Goddard got against the Rams, it was very intriguing because finally they've been talking about getting him involved, and he has been great. Little side note too about Dallas Goedert. I posted it earlier from Sports Info Solutions. Him and George Kittle are the best tight end blockers this year, and they missed like one block between the both of them. So Goddard's balling. It's just that doesn't, you don't get paid per block, or you don't get a point per block on fantasy. But I would stick with Goddard and Kittle. I understand the Downs stuff because he's been hyper targeted, and especially what you kind of saw with Gardner Minshew. So you kind of think that you see that happening and continuing. So I get that part. But I'd be really frustrated if I like left Kittle on the bench and he has like a game where he has 3 catches for like 40 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's hard. It's hard to sit there. But hey, if you again, Jason, go with your gut, man. Go with your gut.
I like how people still ask Jason fantasy advice and don't even bother with me, which is I'm fine with, not a complaint. I texted Jason last night. I'm like, hey man, I got a trade offer. Should I take it? Sent it to him, and he's like, I swear to God, Andrew, if you trade Kenneth Walker, I'm going to fight you.
Yeah, and I didn't say it like that, but it was firm. It was firm.
It was very like, I swear, if you trade Kenneth Walker, Andrew. Jason, I'm excited for football this week, and I think it's going to be a fun little weekend. Niners should have a pretty good game, ideally have a good game. All that matters, though, is the next time you're going to see us on youtube.com is right right here, obviously. It's going to be Monday. It's going to be 5:15 p.m. Ideally breaking down a 6-0 49ers team as they head to Minnesota. But we'll see what happens on Sunday. I think it's a very interesting matchup, to say the least. So, Jason, we are going to get up out of here and let everybody have a little bit of time on their weekend. Jason, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you have a great night. Sounds like it's going to be a little litty up in Jersey tonight, so I'm pretty excited.
I don't know about that, man. But yeah, I definitely got to get out the house for a little bit.
We love it.
Too much football, man. It's between from now all the way through Saturday. It's going to be very little football, maybe some college football, and then Sunday we're right back at it. So
beautiful. Well, I hope you have a good time, man. Take your mind off of football. Take your mind off of baseball. Take your mind off of everything and just have a good time.
Or the fact that the Houston Astros are going to win another World Series and God is just punishing me and I just have to watch this over and over.
Bochy. I
hope so, man. I'm a big Texas Rangers fan right now. Big Texas Rangers
if you're a Giants fan in this chat right now, I implore you to compliment Bruce Bochy without making it about the current team. I dare you. I dare anybody to do it because I can't seem to see any compliment about Bruce Bochy without taking some sort of shot at the current team. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Get out of Cleveland as fast as you can. You don't want to be stuck there too long.
No, absolutely not. Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.